Hey everyone, Scott here, and this week we're going to talk about something a little bit different. We're going to talk about planning for the unexpected. So, we talk about planning all the time around here, right? Retirement planning, income planning, tax planning. It's pretty much what we do. But this week we're going to talk about what happens when you are forced to retire early, whether it's from getting laid off or taking an early buyout, or maybe your health has declined and you need to step away. So, it happens more often than you may think. A recent survey said that 1/3 of recent retirees retired sooner than they planned, so it could definitely happen to you. And so today we're going to talk about some specific things that you need to keep in mind in case you were to have to retire early. And if it has happened to you, these are things that are going to help you be more prepared. And we're also going to give you some strategies that you may not be aware of, may not be on your radar because you just haven't had to think about them yet. So let's jump right in. So the first thing you're going to want to do if you are forced to retire early is you just need to review your benefits, okay? You need to sit down with an HR person, you need to get organized, and you need to know, okay, am I getting a severance? How many weeks am I going to get paid out? Will my benefits continue for a certain period of time? Am I going to get paid out for my unused sick leave and vacation? You need to get all these things organized. You need to know, will you be able to have some sort of retiree medical insurance, okay? So start thinking about those things now, even if this isn't on your radar. Go ask those questions. Do you have retiree medical, okay? Because that is going to be a huge deal if you have to retire before age 65. How are you going to pay for health insurance between the time you retire and when you get to Medicare age at 65? There's all sorts of different options out there, and it can be a huge expense, and so you want to be as prepared as possible for that. Also, if you're lucky enough to have a pension plan, you need to find out, okay, what's your pension going to be now that you're retiring? What are your different options? Can you take a lump sum? Can you take a survivor option so that your spouse would continue to receive something if you were to pass away? You need to know those options. You need to test scenarios, find out what's going to work best for you. And there's another big question we got to ask, and that is, how old are you? Because a lot of this is going to depend on how early you're retiring. So if we say that a normal retirement age is 65 or 67, there's kind of different levels of early. So I would say from age 62 to 65, that's one level, because you got to make a few different decisions. One, you got to decide, are you going to start Social Security? Maybe you were planning on waiting until 67, but now your income has gone away. Do you need to start Social Security earlier? One of the key considerations to think about there is, do you plan on going back to work? And if so, you need to really strongly consider not taking Social Security if you can get by without it. Because what happens if you take Social Security before full retirement age, which for some of you it's going to be when you're 66 to 67, and for a lot of you it's going to be age 67. If you work while taking Social Security early, they are going to take some of that back if you make over a certain threshold, and that threshold's about $19,000. If you make more than that, they're going to take some of your Social Security back. So really, if you can get by without it, that's going to be a key consideration. But for a lot of you, it might make sense to just go ahead and start drawing Social Security. But now let's talk about if you're not 62 and Social Security is not quite on your radar. In fact, we're going to back up to if you are younger than 59 and a half. Now, the reason 59 and a half is an important age in retirement, that's when you can withdraw from your retirement accounts penalty free. Okay, so this is where you can draw from a 401k, a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA even, and get the tax benefits with no penalties. So what if you're not 59 and a half? What if you retire and you are age 57? Okay, well, there is a nice little provision called the Rule of 55, and what the IRS says is that if you terminate service from your company and you're 55 or older at the time, you can withdraw from a 401k or a 403b penalty free. Okay, you still pay the taxes that you would owe, but you don't pay the 10% early withdrawal penalty. So if you're retiring early, don't roll over your entire 401k. okay, right away without thinking about this, you might need to leave some behind in your 403b, in your 401k to use for penalty-free withdrawals using the rule of 55. Now, if you already did roll over your 401k or you don't have a lot in a 401k, you just have an IRA, all is not lost. There's another strategy you can use to access that money penalty-free. It's called 72T distributions. Now, what this is you are going to take substantially equal periodic payments. Okay, so the IRS says you can take the same amount roughly over either a 5-year period or until you're 59 and a half, whichever is longer. So that's another important consideration. If you're retiring at 50, that's a lot different than retiring at 55, because at 50, if you do the 72T withdrawals, you have to withdraw the same amount for 9.5 years. Okay, you have to do that until you hit 59 and a half, even if you were to find other work or you were able to get other income to where you don't need those substantially equal payments, and that's just going to add to your tax burden more than it needs to. Same thing if you're 57 and retiring and you only have 2.5 years until you hit age 59 and a half. If you use the 72T provision, even once you hit 59 and a half, you're going to have to continue taking that money whether you need it or not until you've hit the 5-year mark. So those are some strategies that you can use in order to access your retirement accounts without paying the 10% penalty, which I think is vital to be able to do that. But there are caveats attached to both of them. Finally, the next thing you need to be thinking about is your investments and how do they need to be structured now that you're no longer in accumulation mode, okay? You're no longer saving. In fact, you're probably drawing them down. So your investment focus at this point may need to shift more from growth mode into more income mode. So you need to make sure that your investment plan is in place so that it can get you the income that you need while you're bridging that gap until you start Social Security, or if it's just going to be your full-on retirement, making sure you have the income that you need. And so your investment picture might be a little bit different than it was while you were in accumulation mode, in growth mode. And finally, another consideration that's kind of getting into the nitty-gritty details here is just from a tax standpoint. So if you have different buckets of money, if you have some cash saved, if you have some taxable brokerage accounts, if you have traditional pre-tax retirement accounts plus Roth IRA tax accounts, well, you need to build a plan. You need to know which buckets you need to be drawing from so that you can minimize your taxes, not just this year, but for the long haul. And so now that you're switching into that distribution mode, you need to figure out what's the best distribution strategy for you. Is it the old rule of thumb that you draw down your taxable accounts first, or is it the old rule of thumb that you draw down your tax deferred accounts first? See, there's different rules of thumb. It really just needs to depend on your situation, not a rule of thumb, okay? It depends on where you're at, both investment-wise, tax-wise, income-wise, okay? So it needs to be specific to you. That withdrawal strategy can make or break whether this early retirement is going to allow you to have the income you need as long as you plan on living, or is it going to cause you to maybe have to go back to work? Now, speaking of, I don't want you to have to go back to work. If you've gotten to this point and that you're able to retire a little bit early, I don't want you to have to go back to work, but let's say you do decide you need to go back to work. Well, one of the considerations to think about is, okay, are you going to go back and focus on earning as much as you can, or are you going to go find something that has good health insurance? Okay, maybe you can cover you and your spouse with health insurance. So don't look at it just from a dollars and cents, dollars per hour or salary, whatever it may be. Look at the benefits side of it too, especially if you are under age 65. Okay, so those are some things to think about if you are forced to retire early. Hope this helped. If you have any more questions about that, or you're in this situation right now and want to go over it with one of our advisors, give us a call, 844-CARLSON. You can set up a time to talk to us. You can also go check us out at Carl's Corner. We have lots of different videos on different topics. And otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.